You just leave that on like your backpack or like just off to the side, and because they're Bluetoothing, you just range your target, and then it'll have like a 3-ish second delay, and then it'll tell you what your elevation hold is for your rifle. So you'll get the distance, and then it'll flip over to, hey, hold, this many mils. And you're like, cool. You just put that on my optic and go.
At that point, obviously, like, it's making it easier, but are you losing the art behind it?
In my opinion, yes.
Because, like...
That's a conversation that me and Joe had about the Tremor 3.
Oh.
That's a hot topic for some people.
Yeah, I don't fuck with electricity.
No.
It all boils back to my childhood fear of because my dad would be working on something, and anytime he was working on electrical wires or anything, he'd call you over and be like, "Hey, come here," and then grab you and go, "Ah!" and then
just
scare you. So thanks, Dad, for
childhood flashbacks.
Childhood trauma.
The big old learning lessons.
Right.
Yeah. It was like my grandpa used to chase me around with his dentures half hanging out. He didn't have like any teeth. He was in a car accident and ate the steering wheel when he was like a kid, so he would just chase me around the house with his dentures half hanging around like out of his mouth when I was a kid. Terrifying.
I saw that happen to a guy in the Army, to just face planted an ACOG right between his front teeth.
Oh.
He was trying to hit a corner too fast on a short wall, and then the muzzle clipped the corner, and rifle stayed put, and his whole body went forward.
Oh.
ACOG went straight through his teeth.
ACOG 1, teeth 0.
There should be a Trigicon commercial off that.
Trigicon just posted about the RMR that Aaron Cowan is like beat to shit on their social today. So
it probably looks
ACOGs and RMRs, man.
Hey, ACOGs are making a comeback.
Retros?
Yeah.
That's the retro.
I need one.
Hey, I mean, I just got out last June, and they still have those running like crazy for all the guys.
The range has a Tiger Stripe ACOG.
Yeah, those are you're not allowed to sell those online.
Dude, they're hot.
Yeah,
it's sweet.
Only. I think we got a couple of them.
Do you have a couple of them? Those are pretty.
I don't have one. No,
I mean, like across the street. I mean, there's a couple of them.
You should put one on your retro.
Carry handle?
Well, not the carry handle.
It's a carry handle.
That'd be way up there.
Yeah, the Unity mount.
The M4 cloner that you have.
Oh, the Knights one?
Or the Knights or the FN, yeah.
With the Knights rail.
That would look hot.
Well, if we ever get those carry handle stripped uppers in, that would be a good, do just like a full Tiger Stripe build.
Yeah.
Throw it on it. That'd be hot.
Beautiful.
That'd be high, though.
But, I mean, like, it wouldn't be any higher than putting it on a
like
195.
I think it'd be a little higher.
Yeah, I think it would.
I think they're... If I remember right, I used to have this chart when I would teach all the snipers all the different height over bores, and I had an example of like every single style from the carry handle red dots and ACOGs and stuff like that. And if I remember right, don't quote me on this, but I think it was like around like
you're live, so this
it's like 2.25 inches,
like 226 height.
Yeah, it was big. It was,
that's crazy.
Like way up there.
So that gets us right into it. So we are sitting down here this morning and talking to Adrian from Sidewinder Concepts.
Yep.
I ran into you a couple weeks ago at BTO Range and Training Facility, and you introduced yourself a little bit there, and we were talking about, the challenges of moving to Texas and finding a range, and a little bit about your military background, and I was like, just wait a second, stop. I've got the perfect spot for us to talk about this. Have you ever heard of the Big Tex Ordnance podcast? And you're like, no. And so we invited you over a couple weeks later, and now you're here. So thank you for taking time out this morning.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, man.
This all definitely helps.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we've got a pretty good audience, pretty active, engaged audience that I think we're going to probably break 45,000 downloads this week.
Nice.
Because we've got a couple good podcasts dropped. We've got, this probably won't air for a couple more weeks, but we've, just dropped Steve Fisher this morning, recorded Dan Brokos last week. Got some pretty good hitters, so to speak, on the podcast lately. And then we've got a ton of dudes that we've interviewed and had a really good time here talking to us. So for those in our audience that don't know you, or haven't been introduced to you yet, go ahead and give me like the 15-minute backstory, dude.
All right. So again, name's Adrian. Grew up just outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. From there, went down to Florida for school. Decided I wanted to join the military. Went into the Army. Got stationed up at Fort Lewis. Did about just shy of 10 years there, and spent majority of the time in the recon and sniper community. And from there, just started getting into PRS shooting. And after recently getting out in last June, I decided to start Sidewinder Concepts, which focuses very heavily on scope carbine and the long-range realm, which I felt that there needed to be more of a push on, especially now that we're starting to see a lot of other people wanting to get into long-range itself. And so now here I am. I live now here in the Houston, Texas area, so Texas is home base. And from there, I still travel around doing courses, but Houston is home.
So what?
Go. I was
No.
gonna say. So you went East Coast, West Coast, being stationed out there. What made you come to the middle, to Texas? Why Houston?
The relationship I'm in.
Okay, nice.
Same.
Same. Yeah.
I was born here.
Yeah, you were born here.
I was hoping you were going to teach us about missiles.
Missiles.
Little Sidewinder, so I was hoping it was.
That was actually my next question. I was like,
where does that come from?
Yeah, what's the story?
So you guys are actually the first ones to ask me about that.
Good job.
So there was kind of like a little bit of a thought process into it. When you look at Army snipers, they're all referenced around snakes. So and a lot of the call signs always start with an S. So I wanted a name that rolled off the tongue easy, and then Sidewinder kind of came to fruition. When you look at the characteristics of that particular snake from a speed aspect, they're one of the fastest in the world at roughly 18 miles an hour. That reference again being, snipers generally being the first ones out. The second was that when you watch how they hunt, they will go to a known area where little critters are and stuff that they want to eat, and they'll bury themselves into the sand, so kind of like digging in, which is, again, similar to what we do. And then the last one is that those snakes are generally found in North American deserts, which is where I spent most of my time doing training and developing the skill sets and gaining that experience. So it all just kind of came encompassing together, rolls off the tongue easy. And
I didn't know there was a snake called a Sidewinder.
Really?
Yeah.
You should look it up. It's pretty interesting.
I just knew about missiles called Sidewinders, so awkward. Nice. I dig it. So what's your forte? What's your number one class that you're teaching?
Scope carbine is the most popular currently out of the options that I do offer. I mean, I think what it's happening is a lot of guys are getting very comfortable with the flat range 100 and in, 50 and in kind of shooting, and they're ready to kind of start stepping it up, but they don't want to spend a lot of money. So the trend that I'm seeing is that guys are just buying new optics and applying them to the current AR platforms that they have, and thus we got scope carbine kind of coming into the playing field here.
And what kind of distances do you typically shoot out to for that class?
I generally will do 600 and in because
Gotcha.
I believe that's where each person should master their carbines out to. That's kind of generally the max effective for your 14.5s and 16-inch rifles. Occasionally, when I have a range that does go further, I'll do that. I'll go further with them just to show that there is capability of it and that it is possible. Mm-hmm. And then you'll start to see the deviations of these rounds as you go further out. Plus, it builds the confidence of the shooter itself. But for the most part, I try to stay 600 and in, master those distances, and make sure that everybody understands what they're doing to apply it to the rifle and from the rifle to the target.
Gotcha.
So one of the questions I got for you, since you said how long were you in for total?
It was just over 9 years.
Just over 9 years. So you joined in 2012 time frame?
14.
2014. Okay, yeah, my math is bad. So we didn't overlap at all. So I got out in 2013. You came in 2014. What do you think, like what was on your first issued rifle? I want to kind of see where we're at.
So it was an M4 with a CCO red dot.
Okay.
And I had PVS 7s.
Nice. Okay, so those were still hanging out.
Wow, 7s all the way in 14.
Oh yeah.
They're still laying around over there at that particular unit.
Oh
yeah,
wow.
I would guarantee it. There's still dudes rocking 7s out there.
They actually gave 7s more to the drivers than anything for all the strikers and stuff like that.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, because they had their display in there.
That, and I think it was just easier for them to have both eyes kind of working while driving rather than going like half and half.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet it is a lot easier to drive with 7s than it is a 14.
Yeah, A14.
That's what we always used.
Was A14?
Was A14.
It's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
It's challenging. Mm-hmm. No depth perception.
Yeah, we figured it out. I didn't crash, so.
And so in 2014, you went to infantry basic or OSUT, then out to Washington State.
Yep.
And then from there, what is your background? What did your training progress through to get from regular infantry grunt to on the snipers team?
So I like to preface this with I was a Y guy in the Army, which usually gets a lot of flack. So I had wanted to progress when I was on the regular side. One of the other ground pounding battalions before I went over to the recon side. And it got to a point where the leadership had wanted to get rid of me because I was asking so many questions. So instead of kicking me out of the Army, they forced me to go to recon tryouts, which I was pissed about at the time. Ended up making it over there, and that was within the first year of me being there. And then from there, I was on the recon side, wanted to get over to the sniper section, was not allowed to go to the sniper section, and ended up pulling out a pretty significant loan to train myself to go to the schoolhouse. And because I wasn't able to talk to anybody, I wasn't able to get any kind of training material. They were putting me on details to keep me away from everybody. So I'm sitting here going with this loan, bought every magazine, article, book, anything you can think of with long range involved. Built a rifle to mimic the M110 at the time, and was just up in the mountains hiking these targets everywhere. And I would literally have all these books just laid out on the ground with different highlighted sections, and I would just go through trial and error and figure out which one worked best for me, and then just concluded which one I liked, and then would more or less just shoot these targets, see what worked best. And I did that for probably about 4 or 5 months, and then finally managed to sneak a packet through the leadership, and then had an opportunity to go in 2017 to sniper school and passed.
Fantastic.
How was that experience like? How was I guess what does sniper school entail for those that may not know?
So you go down, pretty much day one is already like nerve-wracking, because aside from the PT test, you have your first shoot-in. And for those that don't know what the first shoot-in is, that is a go-home criteria on day one, is you get an unzeroed M4 with iron sights, and you have to make five-shot groups in under 4 centimeters, which is around 2 inches at 25 yards. And the reason why they do it with an unzeroed rifle is because it doesn't matter where it is on the target itself. They want to see that you have the fundamentals down packed and that you're creating consistency. So if you don't have 4 out of those 5 targets passing, you go home. and so
straight out of the gate, just
straight out of the gate,
later.
day one. I think in my class alone, we had like 7 or 8 out of, I think we started with 30 something.
Oh wow. So
like 7 or 8 went home right there.
Nerves will get you, dude.
30%.
Nerves will get you.
Well, especially when it's a course that you want to go to, and then you're like, so then the nerves like kind of kick in even more, kind of thing.
Do you kind of know that's happening, or is it just like, okay, you're all sitting there, get up, go, we're doing this, or do y'all like?
No, yeah, you get. I mean, talking to the other guys in the section, when you're allowed to talk to them, they'll let you know what to expect, but they'll also send you an email of kind of like, hey, this is what the week by week is going to look like, so that you kind of know what to train for.
Gotcha.
And stuff like that. But from there it goes into a couple weeks of just death by PowerPoint, into range time, then stocks, fieldcraft, then going more into advanced shooting, and then so on and so forth for 7 weeks.
Oh, there we go.
We were just talking, it was like 2 days ago in the warehouse making ghillie suits.
Well, that'll be fun. Arts and crafts.
Yeah. Don't know why,
Craft time at BTO.
But why not?
Because why not?
Yeah, exactly.
I'm down.
So we might have
Josh is just going to be out in the national forest, just like
pretty much.
There's going to be some hiker
like,
walking by, and he's going to just stand up.
Josh is going to be a bush. I'm one.
Don't scare people in the national forest, not in Texas.
Yeah,
it's not a good way to catch a
walking bush is going to be just like
catch a hot one.
Josh and Justin are just going to be bushes walking through the freaking national forest.
So will you add that to the weekly schedule? So Tuesdays are plate carriers, and then Thursdays are ghillie suits.
Ghillie suit Thursdays.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's like
we can make it happen.
Who's that back there packing?
There was Team Windy Wednesdays for a while. all the guys wore their Team Windy helmets.
Yeah.
Thank you, Joe.
Yeah, we have a good time here, as you can tell.
Yeah. It sounds like it.
So from sniper school, you went back to Washington.
Mm-hmm.
And what'd you do from there?
So 2017 was a pretty wild ride for me. So January 2017, went to the schoolhouse, came back 2 weeks later, went to Airborne, came back. I think it was like 3 weeks later, I went to it was like a small arms international competition out in Arkansas called the AFSAM, and competed there with a bunch of other countries. Came back again, and then in October I went to the international sniper competition for 2017. So 2017 was kind of a wild ride.
A lot of moving around, man.
A lot of
got some airline miles there.
I mean, it doesn't count for me. That's all.
Uncle Sam
all
got you
Army.
some airline miles.
The international sniper competition, they still do that at Benning?
Yep. Well, I actually just got back from it last week.
Oh, really?
I didn't compete. And this year I was there with the vendors. But, yeah, so they just competed last week. They do it every April now. It's the same as Infantry Week down there because they just finished Best Ranger as well.
Yeah, I was down there 1 year for Best Ranger competition. Went and watched some of the stages. It was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't compete, but I was down there at the same time in school. And so it was like, on the weekend, what are we doing? Oh, we're taking a cooler and going and watching these dudes rucking down the street. That was cool.
You're like, this is a weird marathon, but we're here for it.
We're here for the violent part of the marathon.
Yeah.
It was cool. It's a good experience. Benning's always a good time to spend some time down there. How'd you do in the competition when you? The
first one, not so hot. If I remember right, I think it was like 16th place, 16th, 17th. It's just a lot of learning at that point. I mean, just finishing the schoolhouse, learning the competition side, going into one of the biggest competitions, and there was a lot of crash course learning within that particular one. Plus, we had the History Channel filming that entire event, so it's like not only are you stressed out about going through all this other stuff, but they put a camera team per competing team.
Oh wow!
So they had like those big ones. This was like my first time being in front of a camera kind of thing. So these guys are just like up close and personal in your face the whole time while you're trying to like think about whatever the stressful stage is that's happening. So it was an interesting experience to say the least.
Well, just getting to the competition's hard. Just getting approval to go.
Yeah, because you got to compete with everybody in your division to get selected to then go to that competition.
Yeah, I had a couple of buddies that went back in 2009, 2010.
Okay.
And that was like LaRue was a really big sponsor of it back then.
Oh, yeah.
LaRue did a video, I think, and I was like watching the video. I was like, hey, I know that dude.
What are you shooting for that? Like what glass, what rifle?
So it's all the issued.
Okay.
All the issued equipment. Well, it's supposed to be.
Nice.
The other special teams don't necessarily have to follow those rules, which is really annoying.
Yeah, because I mean they have Canada, England, like a lot of countries are represented in the competition.
Yeah.
Then every branch of the armed forces, and then Paul Dugan's gonna get mad at me here when I start talking shit about it. But then you got the National Guard teams. That
he's a good dude. I've met him.
You
several
met Paul?
times.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah,
Paul's a real good dude.
Oh yeah, Paul and Emily are amazing. We love y'all.
Yeah, we do. But they, like,
yeah,
I'm not. They get a little. That's kind of like bragging rights in the National Guard realm. So that dude might be all that guy
They
does.
just got first. Well, 19th group got first this year.
Yeah. It's like all they do. It's like, what are you doing? We're going to the range today. Why? Because we're going to win this trophy. That only means a lot to a select few individuals. But it's cool when they can get the backing and the funding and the support from their organizations to do that.
It's one of those where I wish the regular Army got a little bit more time to do the training, because it was kind of like hey, this competition's in 2 weeks. You're going kind of thing. And it's like, well, I wish I would have known this like 3 or 4 months ago.
Yeah.
Kind of deal. But it is what it is.
Yeah, if not more. And I don't know how it was while you were in, but when I was in, for you to get any support whatsoever of any sort of outside training or bringing somebody in the regular Army side was absolutely unheard of. Like it didn't happen. The only thing I ever saw was when I was actually still in fixing to get out. I was hosting training where I was at Fort Leonard Wood.
Okay.
And I had Super Dave come in to do a class, and it wasn't filling, and then all of a sudden it filled because one of the training brigades dudes was on light fighter. Oh. Right, and he was a major, and he's like, you know what? I'm going to send I'm going to send a drill sergeant from every battalion to this class with Super Dave, and that was the whole thing. But that was, that was unheard of,
right?
In the regular Army type of setting, and it just makes me happy to know that still in 2017 it was a last minute ditch to, hey, you're going to sniper competition.
Shit. All right, I guess we're going.
File your DTS.
Pretty much. I mean, like in that short time frame that we had, we definitely were blessed a little bit because first group and second bat were very helpful with letting us tag along on some of their ranges and sharing some of their ammo and things like that. So they were definitely supportive and helpful with that 2 weeks that we had.
Yeah, with that 2 weeks training. That's awesome. You mentioned you were there this year with a vendor. Who were you there with?
I was there with Griffin Armament.
Okay, cool.
So they're very supportive of Sidewinder, and they invited me down with them. And so I was down there hanging out with them and talking to other vendors and stuff like that, and it was a lot of fun.
And I see you have a Loopold shirt on.
They're probably the biggest supporter I got.
Nice.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So
who do you deal with over there?
Nick Kitlicka.
Okay.
So he's their media guy. He runs their pro team.
Gotcha.
He actually does quite a bit, and he's extremely supportive as well. Loopold has helped me get started in all of this stuff quite a bit to be able to help out with other students wanting to run different optics or have multiple spotting tools for people to use and stuff like that. So you don't have to feel like you need to buy everything in order to just come and do a class kind of thing.
Yeah, we're big fans of Loopold. They make a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Love their Mark 5 line.
Yep.
The Mark 5s are... The 30 to 6 to 18 is kind of it's a really good optic. It does a lot of... You can fill a lot of roles.
So what do you think of the 2 to 10?
I just picked one up. It's on my rifle.
Yeah, he's got one.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. So far, I like it. I shot it out to 600 like 3 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see how she does next week.
I know everybody's like very seesaw with this particular optic.
Well, Knife Force has been making a 2 to 10 for some time now, and I don't feel like it got as much when that came out, I don't feel like it got as much like negative press that the not negative press, but like there's people are very opinionated on the Mark 5 2-10. It seems like both ways.
If you quit fighting that, here we go into the whole optics thing. And I'm not very educated on this, but what I think, I'm not an engineer, but there's the disclaimer. I'm just slept in a Holiday Inn last night. The freaking, if you quit trying to fight that true one battle,
yeah,
and you're focused so much on that one power, and just say, okay, we're going to start it at 2. I would think that allows you to do a lot more with the internals and everything on that glass.
Well, let me ask you a question. Do you guys have LPVOs on your? Not the 2. I know you just said the 2.
Yeah, I have a 1-6 on a 12.5.
Yeah, I have a Calais, or however you say that.
So you,
I have a 1-6.
Oh, Calais.
Yeah, Calais 1-6 on a 12.5.
Okay.
I've always thought it was Kales.
I've called it every time I say it differently. Kales,
cool.
Calais, like I.
Is it Spanish?
I don't know
or
how to
fucking what?
I'm sure somebody will comment.
Yeah.
Like this is the right pronoun.
Idiots.
I don't know how to say
It's like
it. I just
Leopold
changed
and
it up.
Leupold.
Yeah.
I've had a Razor 1-6.
I got that from you.
I've got an EOTech 1-10 now.
So then the question is are you guys all running red dots?
Yes.
On the 1-6, I'm running a red dot.
Yes.
Okay, and then at what point are you going to be? Because to me, it's like the one power or being hyper fixated at it makes sense if you're not running a red dot or
And
some kind of offset.
Mine's clean. I don't have a red dot.
Yeah.
So and then you can, in my opinion, you can argue the one power being a bigger factor for you. But when you once you immediately put a red dot on there, then it's just like, well,
Why are
I'd
you
rather
using the one?
I'd rather step up my optic quality at this point.
Yeah.
Because my biggest argument that I don't see enough people really talking about when it comes to a 2-10 style platform, whether it be the Vortex, the Mark 5, or the Night Force that you were saying, is just having that parallax. And in these classes, what you'll start to see really, really quick, and I'm sure somebody's going to disagree with me on this, but a lot of these LPVOs have a fixed distance at where the parallax is. So once you start going past that, the image is going to not be as clear as possible, which is once you have that parallax adjustment, now you can make the image extremely clear for those extended distances. The last time I was kind of like Googling around, majority of the optics from like the Attacker 1-8, the EOTech Voodoo 1-10, the Razor 1-10, all seem to have a parallax somewhere in that 120 to 150 yard range, which is great for some of that 300 and in CQB stuff. But once you want to kind of really push the limits, you're going to get a little bit more fuzzy image, and that's where the 2-10 style optics really come into play.
Yeah, I like it so far. Like I said, I don't have a ton of time behind it, but it was my first I mean, I have the 1-6, but I built it to take the class we have coming up and classes in the future. So
nice.
Yeah, we've got Bruiser Industries next weekend.
Yep.
Joe coming down.
I was supposed to come and hang out afterwards, but I got another class in Arizona coming up on that same weekend.
Oh, nice.
So
At least you're working. You know, at least you're got classes.
That's the goal. I need to get classes here though.
Yeah.
Here in Texas. I haven't had one in Texas yet.
Oh wow.
So
I was talking to Joe last night. We were talking about different stuff. He's coming down. We've got him coming down for 4 days total. Friday and Monday are content creation for us. So we're going to be doing YouTube videos, Instagram videos, getting a bunch of that stuff.
Yeah, he's
saved
a good
up.
dude.
And yeah.
Joe's a great guy.
Every time I talk to him, I always get off track because he's starting to just drop the knowledge, and I'm like, okay, you lost me about 3 sentences ago. But I mean, it's just like knowledge. He just opens his mouth and knowledge comes out.
Knowledge bombs to the face.
Oh yeah. And
you're taking that class with us, right?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. If I get my 6 arc back, I'll be taking it with that. If not,
there you go.
I got the 5.56.
Nice. Yeah. That's. I mean, either way,
you're
you're set up well.
I think I'm gonna text Jordan now and be like,
yeah,
hey,
you should send
send
me
my
my
rifle
back.
back.
I need that rifle. Like,
send me the prototype
yesterday.
back. Show me the back.
6 arcs is a phenomenal round. I love that round.
Yeah. It's gonna be a lot bigger thing. It's gonna get a lot more popular. There's a lot of people are starting to adopt it. or a lot of groups are starting to adopt it. And, I think it's going to hit the mainstream a little bit harder than it is now here pretty soon. Yeah, you're starting to see like a lot of manufacturers are now offering barrels in it. So like Faxon's making some, Geisley's got theirs. There's a lot more 6-arc barrels becoming available. I think the mainstream's going to pick up on it here pretty soon.
Yeah, it'll be pretty cool.
One of the guys that had brought the 6-arc to my class was explaining how the way they're making specific receivers for them now too, because the inside on the left side of the receiver is getting worn out too fast from the 6-arc being a higher pressure round in that smaller package. So there's some companies that are doing reinforced upper receivers specifically on the inside right there. So I don't know if that's going to be something that needs to be talked about more. Or
I almost wonder if you could do something like with the MCX, what they're doing. You have that removable, like for the cam path. There's that's actually like a wear part on the spear, so you can like take that out and replace it.
I didn't know.
Maybe
that'd be a cool thing.
Maybe
get on it.
Yeah.
Do we need to edit that out of this podcast? Don't give away our
secrets.
Our secrets. Our secrets.
No, that is interesting though that they're actually making like dedicated receivers for it.
right. It's just beefed up on the inner left side of the receivers, specifically for the arc.
Yeah.
Just because of that, I imagine it's the bolt just hitting a little bit harder on that side, is what they were noticing.
The only other bad thing about the arc is the bolt itself. Because you're taking like a regular, it's a Grendel bolt, I guess, but there's a lot less material around that compared to like a 5.56 bolt. So I know sometimes there's been issues with like lugs shearing off and bolt issues, but
it's fairly new round, fairly new thing that we're shoving in a gas gun just to get right. And even mags are. The
mags is another issue.
Another issue finding though.
Duramags I've heard are pretty good, and Geisley's are supposed to be good if you can find the Geisley's.
Yeah. Right.
But
yeah, we got two.
We
cases
just got the Duramags.
Yeah, we got 2 cases of Duramags back there today.
I haven't been able to find a Geisley bag.
Yeah,
because I've been the Breton mags too. I've been using Breton mags in mine. Those have been pretty good, but those are only like 10 rounds or 15 rounds or something.
Yeah,
the Duramags, I need to try those out. They have a little bit of a curve to them. So are they like 20s?
Yeah,
I
think they're 20s.
Yeah, which allows you to get lower. Doesn't impede a tripod as much.
Yeah.
All that good stuff. But getting back to what you were talking about earlier, and we've talked about it before, I do really think it is the dudes that, we've got comfortable on the flat range on a regular we've done car CQB, we've done room clearing, we've done everything that you can possibly do at 50 and 25 yards in with a rifle, and now you're like, all right, cool. So
how do I hit that way over there?
How do I shoot that a long distance?
Well, let me ask you a question. What do you guys consider? Because it's kind of an open question. What do you guys consider being CQB distances?
That's a good.
Because this will answer a lot of why guys are getting into magnified optics.
So we're talking about like a
Walmart. Some people define CQB as like inside a structure, like your house or something. But I don't know. I don't really know how I would define it.
I'd say 100 meters and in.
Okay. What do you say?
Yeah, I would say that because like you could be there's CQB like in your house where it's my bedroom door to my hallway is like 10 yards, but then CQB could be at HEB and like down an aisle is what 50, 75 yards depending on how big the store is. Yeah. So you could be at the mall and that could be CQB, and that's few hundred yards. So I think that 300 and in, I don't know. That's I don't think there's a right answer to that, or is there a right answer? I don't know.
Well, I don't know if there would be an opinion answer, but and then what would you say?
I don't know. I would say probably like 100 and in.
Okay, so I say 300 and in. That's that. Again, this is my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I say that is because generally I would say CQB would be in a distance that's too close for comfort, And the reason why I say 300 in it is because if you look at the average zeros being 25, 36, and a 50, well, the 25 for 300. If it's a matter of you can take a very ill-trained individual and they have to just rest a dot at the target and they have a high probability of hitting out to roughly 300 because it's just a point-and-shoot system.
Yeah.
It's too close for comfort. And that's why I say 300 and in. Now, when we take that aspect of 300 and in and we start to look at it from like an urban environment, if you miss your first shot at whatever those distances are, it's just human nature to move and get cover somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
So now you just take a full-size target and it immediately turns into something small, right? When you look at peeking around corners or around cars or whatever to make sure that it's some safe or what's going on and all that other stuff, this is where the magnified optics really come into play. And it doesn't have to always just be from a distance perspective. It can be from just a PID or being able to actually see the target that's peeking around corners or doing whatever mischievous thing it's doing and stuff like that. And then allowing you to understand whether or not you even need to use the firearm kind of thing at that point. So even if for law enforcement, for example, everybody takes cover and the minute it turns into a two-way range kind of thing. So being able to identify exactly where the bad guy is type of thing allows you, that's where that magnification really comes into play so that they can actually see that stuff.
Yeah.
Especially at some of those like outside extended-ish distances kind of thing.
Never even really kind of thought about that too in detail. I wonder if there's like a textbook definition of what CQB distance is.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, zeroing your rifle in the Army, the max, like, for the qual is 300, which
Right.
you're either doing with irons or a red dot. And I know when I had an ACOG on my rifle, I think we shot out to 4.
Well, unless you went to a special range, but it should have still been 300 and in, but it felt like it was cheating at that point.
Yeah.
Because you could see so much better.
For sure.
Yeah,
and
compared
it was,
to like irons.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's like...
But it was all the same stuff. Like even in the Army, the guys that were like, well, we just need all these guys to score experts. Like, cool. Well, instead of zeroing the ACOG the right way, I just zeroed it for 25 on the tip of the chevron. I'm like, hey, treat this like a magnified red dot. Just go shoot the course real quick with my rifle, and then I'll fix it later, kind of thing. And then these guys would all, get expert and stuff because they could see everything. And it was just a matter of hold it center on the target because it kind of worked on all the way out there with the 25-meter zero.
Yeah, and it was I think the furthest I shot in the Army was probably about 400 yards with an ACOG because we were getting ready to deploy, so we were at a different range. But I mean, that's such a, you don't think about that because you're outside. You don't think about that as being CQB, but then you're like, oh, you apply this to like somewhere where you're shopping or you're living life, whatever, and it's like, okay, that could be CQB. So I don't know.
Yeah, and then you start looking at like what other military CQB versus civilian type and like close range in the military. We don't want something to get within that the same grid square as us. Like
and that's what I'm saying. It
right.
becomes too close for comfort kind of thing, where you really have to start playing the overmatch game.
Yeah.
Rather than it's just the knowledge point,
Yeah,
marksmanship.
Like, hitting a moving target at night on a Bradley at 3,000 meters is just like, do. All right, got him. Like that is like, ridiculously.
So is that considered CQB with a Bradley 3,000?
No, that's almost max. That's almost max effective range for HE because it blows up at like 34.
I'm jelly. That'd be sweet.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun. But, I mean, like, when you get into it, like, the distances it's all kind of on your, I guess, more weapon system, right? Determine on that because, like, long range for a pistol, for most people, is anything over 10 yards.
Right. And, I mean, it goes into one of the things I talk about is, like, always training to your max effective because it makes you a more confident shooter.
Yeah.
Because through the knowledge of marksmanship, you can create distance between you and that target. through distance you create time, and through time you create a level of decision making. And so whatever the platform may be, if you understand what from like a ballistic calculator standpoint, what the max effective is of whatever your setup is, whether it be from an energy, a velocity, or a mechanical max effective, you'll kind of know what the capabilities of the equipment are, and then you just need to make sure that your capabilities match the equipment itself.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Kind of thing.
Back when I was doing a little bit more instruction, it was always interesting to take a student out and put them at like a distance that they'd never shot at before with a weapon system, whether it be like, all right, you're taking this pistol and we have the ability to shoot still at 50 or 100. We're going to do it. Oh, well, it's not that difficult if you got your fundamentals down and you know where to hold.
Yeah.
Okay, we can shoot still at 100, and that gives you so much more confidence with a pistol at
25's not
at
that
20.
far.
25 is not
Yeah.
that bad.
It changes the perception of everything
Oh,
too.
yeah.
So it's like even in the long range classes, I like to take guys right out of the classroom and just we'll confirm 0, and we'll skip everything, go straight to 1,000 yards, because not only does it tell you that your equipment is working, from the calculators to the tracking of the scope and everything, but it's like, well, we already hit the furthest target on this range.
Everything else is
Everything
easier.
is just like,
Yeah.
I thought we were going to do that at the end of like day 2 kind of thing, but we already did it. So now it's,
Well, I can
you
go
get all
home.
the nerves out and the confidence and all that other stuff. And we've had some guys that are like that. They're like, well, I just wanted to hit 1,000, so I want to go home. I'm like, the fuck you are? No, you got to show me you can do it with all of the stuff and rebuild the rifle and the calculator, because you got to be able to do that and not just forget about it the next day because you had such a great time. Then everything just brain dumped overnight, kind of thing.
So what is your setup for long range in your classes that you're teaching?
For long range, I'm currently running 6 Creed on like a shorter 6 Creed, so 20-inch 6 Creed suppressed. I run blueprinted Howas at the moment, just because why not? They work just as good as any other big action. Currently running a JTAC Industries chassis, which kind of looks like the old M14 EBRs with the telescopic stocks on it. And then I have another one that's in a Masterpiece Arms chassis.
Nice.
So one's in 223, the other one's in 6 Creed.
What glass?
Loophole.
Okay.
Mark 5s.
Nice.
The 223 is a carbon fiber barrel. That one's with the 3-18.
Mm-hmm.
And then the 6 Creed has got the 5-25. Both with
all the zoom.
Yep. Well, it's not the 7-35.
That's a lot of glass.
It's so much glass.
And you're shooting comfortably out to what distance with that setup?
Which one?
With the 6.5 Creed.
The
a
6
6
six
Six
mil?
Creed. Okay.
Usually I go out to about 1,300 and in. That's what I like to play around with. Can I go further? Yeah, but for me, once you start going past 1,000, it kind of requires to have a spotting team.
Mm-hmm.
1,000 and in tends to be about the limit at which you can spot your own rounds. So you become your own like solo shooter and doesn't need a spotter that's just as good at shooting as they are at spotting all the time and stuff like that. So I tend to stay within that 1,000 and in range, but like I have no issues going further.
We need a dedicated spotting course.
Mm-hmm.
I just need to learn how to shoot my fucking rifle to 700 yards
just
consistently.
Just sitting up to where you can pick up trace is a art form in itself, right?
More or less. A lot of it will be kind of like light conditions and whatever other atmospherics are going on as to whether or not the trace will pop that much more. So like up in Washington, shooting in the mountains, we had to get really, really good at trace because it's not desert or farmlands where you'll see a lot of the kick up. from where the round hits, which is what a lot of people pay attention to, and just make a correction off of that. Up in the mountains with the woods and having the targets like set up by the bushes and stuff like that, you weren't going to see splash, so you had to be able to identify the round in flight all the way to the target and almost like predict the trajectory.
Yeah. Wow.
Mm-hmm. Mixed with the trace so that you could actually figure out if you were high, low, left, right, or on target or where on target and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But the bigger the round, the easier the trace was to see. So once you started shooting all the little 6 mils and 22 cal stuff, it started getting really difficult.
Yeah.
We'd have to shoot like a dirt patch just to make sure that we're like on.
Yeah.
And then go back to the target and try to get it on target.
It's always fun chasing it, and it's always cool whenever you get the conditions are right to where you can just see it go out there and hit the target.
Yeah, when Josh and I were at the LMT thing a couple weeks ago, we were the one day we were on the long range, and being able to like, a little to the left, because you could really see it was perfect conditions, perfect light, and you're like, oh yeah, that's easy to, not easy, I mean, but it's like you could call it, be like, oh yeah, you were left, right, whatever way, and it was definitely makes it easier. But even finding like 1,000-yard range to shoot is tricky, let alone past 1,000.
Yeah, you've talked about that. How difficult is it currently for you to find a range to where you can actually stretch legs out?
So in South Texas here, there's ranges. It's just difficult for me to get to the point where I can actually teach on these ranges and getting a hold of some of these locations. That's why I haven't had a course here yet, here in Texas. It's just because I haven't been able to get like connected in. So linking in with the gun shops, linking in with companies like your own, and hopefully that leads to something in the local area. But the further west I go, the easier it becomes, because there's just more free land out there that you can work with, kind of thing.
You can just set up your targets wherever you want. All right, this is where class is.
Yep. I mean, I don't do that much anymore now that it's more like an official business. But getting started, that's how I started. It was just like, hey, you want to learn how to do this stuff? That cool. Let's meet here.
Here's a grid point. Meet here.
Pretty more or less, just drop the pin.
Set
up a range?
What's your typical class demographic look like? Who's coming to see you right now?
It's all the carbine guys that are dipping into the long range. So that's kind of the demographic that I catered towards. Originally, I was going for more of the competition dudes, but I decided to just stay out of that realm. And right now, it's all the carbine guys that are looking to get into long range, or the scope carbine realm, depending on what they're willing to pay, or as far as equipment goes for themselves, or if they are going into purchasing a full complete rifle, like to get into actual long range distances.
So if I was starting out with a carbine and I didn't have glass yet, and I wanted to get into the more longer range carbine stuff, so say 300 and out, what would you recommend that I go out and get?
So I don't necessarily just telling people like a number, because everybody has a different budget. Right. What I do is I show you guys kind of like, hey, these are different options in different realms, and that way it doesn't make it intimidating or insulting or whatever, where it feels like, oh man, I need to spend a whole paycheck on getting this particular optic. For guys that are really just playing the experimental game and you just want to get something kind of quick, I tend to just say, hey, get one of these primary arms scopes, because they're a little bit cheaper. It teaches you what you want and stuff like that. Or come to a class and I got a ton of optics that you can just play with. Like, throw it on your rifle and figure out what you do or don't like. You can see what other students are running and stuff like that. Mid-range stuff, probably going closer towards the EOTech, Voodoo 1 to 10, and then going up there, the Razor 1 to 10, and then the Attacker 1 to 8. So you got in the middle grounds, you got the higher end primary arms, the Voodoos, and then the NX8s are kind of like the realm that I'd suggest. And that'll be great for that 600 and in.
What about supplementary equipment like tripods or, binos or rangefinder, anything there that you would be like, it would benefit a shooter to get it quicker than get it later? Does that make sense? Did I make that?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah. So I would say a handheld rangefinder would definitely be beneficial. The biggest things to look for when you're doing a rangefinder would be usually there's 3 different max capabilities that are listed on the specs. The only one I give a shit about is what is the max capability on like deer, fur, or non-reflective targets, because that's the one that it's going to generally do the most, and then anything after that is always easier. So, for example, if I'm the Leopold 2800, I believe, does deer out to 1400. So anything after that is just super easy. The Leopold 2800, the SIGs, the new line of Vortexes are all generally good. They're in that $400 to $600 range.
SIG has some cool stuff on their handheld optics. Man. Like they're really
especially when they can talk with like Kestrels and do the applied ballistics and stuff like that. Those
new ones we got in that'll talk directly to your Kestrel, and you can Bluetooth it up.
With those elites too.
Yeah, the ones that are like 1500.
Yeah,
or however much they are.
Yeah, so essentially what it does, like for anybody listening, it when you have the Kestrel ballistic calculator with all the atmospherics going on and it Bluetooths to the rangefinder, you just leave that on like your backpack or like just off to the side, and because they're Bluetoothing, you just range your target, and then it'll have like a 3-ish second delay, and then it'll tell you what your elevation hold is for your rifle. So you'll get the distance, and then it'll flip over to, hey, hold, this many mils. And you're like, cool. I just put that on my optic and go.
At that point, obviously, like, it's making it easier, but are you losing the art behind it?
In my opinion, yes.
Because, like...
That's a conversation that me and Joe had about the Tremor 3.
Oh.
That's a hot topic for some people. Like, I don't care for the Tremor 3 at all because I think it makes you a weaker marksman.
Interesting.
Interesting.
Because, if you can just, like, bink. Oh. This many yards. The wind's this. It knows your ammo. Not, like, I have no fucking clue what I'm doing, and that's why I can't wait for class next week, because my knowledge is 300 yards and in.
Right, and that's where getting guys to that precise level faster is where a lot of this technology really comes into play.
Yeah.
Instead of having to do the math, right? Having to figure all that out.
I'm going to be like lost in the sauce come next weekend, like.
And that's the only downside to all that tech is that it does require that you understand how to operate it all or how to put in all the inputs. Because once the inputs are in there, then the two talk to each other, and then it's just easy at that point. But
your data for the ballistic calculator has to be good. If you're
otherwise
good
database is going to be all not talking to the mainframe, and that's going to be
turn it off and turn it back on again. Have you rebooted it? Let me introduce you to IT. First thing you do, have you turned it off yet? Yeah. We've actually got some Kestrels that Joe recommended us to get. We got some of that stuff. We'll go ahead and do the promo here on BTO Gear. You're going to see a lot more stuff like the SIG optics or the SIG rangefinders and the magnifiers, and as we build that, because that's something else that we've been working on, and be like, all right, let's kind of build this up because it's hot. It is hot right now, and we're kind of getting into it, and so you'll see a lot more of that on BTO Gear.
Oh yeah.
As we continue to grow that.
You guys offering bags, like shooting bags yet?
We've had mats, and we've got the
Badger, their little
the bone.
Yeah, the bone.
Yeah.
Their little bag.
We've got Alex Hartman's his little the sling with the little dog. What is it calling it? A dog leg or something on the back. Yeah, it's pretty.
I was gonna say because that's probably one of the next things to look into, or so it'd be bags, the kestrels, rangefinders, and then a rifle. That'll pretty much set you up for anything that you need.
We have the rifles.
Yeah, we've got the rifles.
We have the optics. We do have bipods here and there.
Mm-hmm.
We have the Badger and the Magpul.
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
Yeah, we got a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big switch though, and we've talked about it for years, about delving into the long range side of the house.
Well, at least mid range.
Yeah.
What
It's
bags?
a lot
Yeah,
easier.
yeah. We're not going chassis and
Yeah,
like,
we're not going.
Right.
We're not doing that.
What bags do you recommend?
Pretty much there's only two.
I was looking at
That's
the Armageddon.
Yep.
Gear.
Armageddon Game Changer, the
Mhm.
mini Game Changer, or the Weebad Fortune Cookie, mini Fortune Cookie.
Okay.
They're pretty much the same damn thing, just two companies. And either, in my opinion, you get one or the other. It's either the Get Light, which is their lightest version, or you get the heavy sand fill. And the heavy sand fill is going to be the most accurate, but you don't want to carry it all the time. The Get Light is going to be super lightweight, that I usually just clip it onto a belt loop and forget about it pretty quick. But it has good structure to it. A lot of the bags, which a lot of people don't necessarily talk about, it's not the bag that's the issue, it's the material on the inside.
Mhm.
So a lot of the cheaper bags that are out there that you can get on like Amazon and eBay and stuff, the fill is kind of like just rounded beads. And you don't necessarily want that because they actually start rolling on top of each other. So the minute you set the rifle on there, you start getting this like kind of like shaking thing, and it's not saddling into the bag the way it should when you're on a barricade, and you're just not getting the max level of structure and accuracy that you should be getting with the right bag. So when you look at some of the like the Armageddon or the Weebad and you're looking at roughly $100, the thing I tell the guys all the time is like, if I said you can give me $100 bill, or roughly $100 plus tax and all that other stuff, and I can give you a significant level of accuracy, would you care what I gave you? And they say no all the time, and I'm like, cool, because you would get a box with just this bag in there. I think it's one of the biggest bang for buck pieces of accuracy that you can gain is a solid bag.
Yeah.
And the right bag to use.
I forgot to. I was gonna get one of the Armageddons like a week ago for
Mhm.
class next week, and I think I'm probably too late for that.
I'm sure somebody will have extra ones.
Yeah.
But it makes a big difference. Like
I know other Chris has got an Armageddon bag in like over the weekend, so.
Yeah, I mean, kind of like a funny story. The last scope carbine class I did in Arizona, I had a guy that did a bunch of fieldcraft courses, and he's just like, "Well, Mike Glover made this bag for me, like, and it was a sock with sand and some other stuff in there." I'm like, "Okay, that's fine if that's what you want to use." I was just like, "I just encourage you to try this one, right? And then you come up with your own conclusions." And then once he tried, the one I gave him was the Armageddon gear Get Light mini Game Changer, and then he didn't want to use the other one anymore from there on out. And I was just like, well, I mean, what happened to your special bag?
What happened to your sock?
He's just like, well, this one works a lot better, and I'm like, as long as you're the one saying it.
So where can people find you, man?
Sidewinderconcepts.com. And then on Instagram, I'm pretty active on there as well. So Sidewinder_concepts.
Nice.
And that's where I'm at.
Nice.
Well, dude, thank you so much for coming on and sitting down with us and letting us pick your brain for a little
Yeah,
bit.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, and you're local, dude. So just give us a shout. You got our numbers. You got our contact. Come up, see us whenever, and we'll get you out to the ranch.
Yeah, hopefully we link up a lot more.
Yeah, for sure.
The ranch is my home range anyways, so
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a member there and everything too. It's just can't seem to get courses on there.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
We'll do an in-house BTO course
yeah. We've
because everyone's building long-range guns.
Yeah, we're all kind of getting into that. Not long range, intermediate.
Yeah.
Like,
intermediate. Yeah,
My bad.
We're not doing the
I don't have that
2 mile stuff.
Sorry, guys.
The 2 mile stuff.
Well, and that's kind of like, you know how I said, what do you think CQB distances are. Well, so what do you think mid-range is?
I don't know. Anywhere where my eyeballs can see.
Intermediate for me is like 300 to 1,000. Like that's,
I would probably agree with that.
That's like my carbine capability.
3 to 12. 3 to 12 is a pretty good stand. Is the medium. Because now you get into like the extreme long range where they're doing like NASA engineers are like doing 2.5 mile shots.
What is it? The curve of the Earth when you have to like predict that into your shot. What's that called? The
Coriolis.
Yeah, effect where it's like, yes, the Earth is turned slightly 3 degrees to the east.
Yeah. Well, that's also referring to the rotation of the Earth.
Yeah,
because depending on your
the
time of flight.
All right, Bob Lee Swagger. Anyway, on that note, appreciate it, dude. You want to roll us out?
Yeah, thank y'all for watching. Be sure and check us out. Check out Sidewinder Concepts and all that. Like, share, subscribe. Tell your friends. We really appreciate the support. Appreciate y'all hanging around and listening to this. And, yeah, I guess we'll see y'all next time.